And I wouldn't want to be running an MSP business where no one of my customers have adopted AI in 3 years, because it's a huge threat, right? And if we're in agreement, or at least in suspicion that AI will have disruption in industries, it's the companies who are going to adopt them 3-4 years down the line that are going to be the ones that have benefited from it, instead of the ones that were disrupted by it.
Hey guys, Damian Stevens, host of MSP Mindset. Today, we have a special edition where we recorded at Build IT Live 2024 in Orlando, Florida. Special thank you to Sunny and to Com for allowing us to show up and interview such amazing MSPs, and thank you to the whole IT by Design team. I want to dig right in. We're at Build IT Live, and I just had an MSP asking me, do you know anybody that's actually making money with AI that's an MSP? And how, if so, so let me start with that question.
Sure. I know lots of people making money off it. I've got lots of partners doing it right now. It's a big change, can be a big change. There is margin in AI software that MSPs can make money off of through our platform or another platform. There is assessments around AI readiness, data governance, that sort of security world of it that MSPs can make money off of. And then I actually have MSPs offering managed services around prompt engineering and AI management. So if you roll out the technology and someone needs help getting it to work right, or to respond better, or respond correctly.
If it's funny.
Yeah. Yep.
When, for sure.
Yep. When. We like on our team, we have prompt engineers that are sort of, in the that you can escalate up to. But we do office hours with MSPs who are training their own teams, and we offer certifications that, they're learning how to do prompt engineering and offer it as a service to their clients. So everything from use case ideation, the security, the data governance and data privacy aspect of it, to how do I make this work better? And I thought it could do it this way, but it responds this funny way. Can you help me edit this? I've seen MSPs making money in all those areas.
So if I want to talk about the other side of this, but if I'm excited about AI, and I would say most of the MSPs they're excited, but they don't know what to actually do to help, where should I start?
So what we've seen is if you can use generative AI, I'm talking about the co-pilots, the Hatz AI secure chat, the chat GPTs of the world, if you get yourself or an employee to use it for 10 hours, the use cases and areas of efficiency start to come out naturally. So when you're working from that frame of reference, it's not, okay, here's my big idea, I'm going top down, I'm going to roll this out to everyone. It's how do I go bottom up, and how do I get everyone on my team to experience those 10 hours and start to ideate for themselves. And it's different than most technology macro changes that we've seen in the past from an IT perspective. So typically, historically, movement to cloud, cybersecurity, we're gonna take a big IT initiative like move to cloud. We're gonna increase our efficiencies and cost reduction by X%. And in order to do that, here's the project timeline, and here's when we're going to move these things, and here's when this business unit's going to do that, and that, that's sort of our frame of reference as IT people on how projects are done. And many companies are making this mistake with AI. Here's our strategic AI committee. Here's our one person who's going to work on rolling AI out to everyone. And they'll come up with an amazing idea, an amazing use case for, something very complicated, when in reality, the quickest way to gain efficiencies in a business is just getting people to use it and ideate it on themselves. So you need that bottom-up approach. And if you don't have that bottom-up approach, people will use AI whether they tell you they're using it or not. So you're going to have employees, whether on your team or in your customer base, you put that Cisco umbrella out or some, SaaS monitoring, I'm sure ChatGPT free is going to, ping up somewhere, probably in higher percentages than you'd expect. And they're going to be using it without guardrails. They're going to be using it themselves. You're not going to have visibility, and you're going to have those, what we call secret cyborgs. People using AI to do their work and not telling everyone because they're scared of it. So you need that bottom-up approach and that top-down.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Servosity. I created Servosity because I was an MSP that lost data. Then I had to go in front of my client and tell them I can't recover. If you've ever been there or worried that you would be there, then you may want to take a look at Servosity. We do two things that nobody else is crazy enough to do. We test your backups maniacally. We do that daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly for you. Then we manage the backups for you so you can focus on growing your MSP instead of babysitting backups. If you're interested in our unlimited storage or immutable storage or any of the things that I'm talking about, visit servosity.com. So you brought up something that I don't know if it's 50-50 or 80-20 or what, but a lot of people have fear of AI. Let's kind of start with even the MSP owner, CEO.
Yep.
A lot of them are like, am I going to be out of business next year? Is there no need for managed services? Like there's these fears. What's your take on that?
So I think that, so if you look at, go back to the 1700s for the Industrial Revolution. You're a small brewery in the 1700s, and all of a sudden the steam engine is invented, and you can get ingredients from different places, and a supply chain is forming. You sort of have two options, right? You can make the same amount of money for less money, and you can fire a bunch of people, or you can hire a lot more people and scale globally, because all of a sudden now you have this distribution system that didn't exist before. And if you are approaching an AI project or an AI rollout from the perspective of, we're going to make the same amount of money for less money, it's going to be hard to get your employees on board with it, because where's that cost savings coming from? It's coming from them. So it's important to sort of drive your North Star of where you want to go and what you want to do, and emulate that through your entire business we're going to gain efficiencies, and here's what we're going to do with those efficiencies. Here's what we're looking to do. Because if you don't, you'll have the secret cyborgs who are using AI without telling anyone they're using AI, because they're scared that they tell their manager that the work they've been sending them the past 3 months has been done 20% by AI, and in less time than they're known, they're going to get more work, or their team is going to shrink from 3 people to 2 people. And it's real fears that people have, and I think MSP owners, they love efficiency and process because it's the way that we think as IT people, or we're trained to think. So we don't associate that with a negative thing. But if you get in the head of a average worker at a company, any company, may not be yours, left without a North Star or guidance, there's no actual incentive for them to sort of say why they're using AI, and they may be scared to tell anyone they are.
Yeah, you end up with shadow AI.
Shadow AI.
I remember it was over a year ago. I interviewed somebody and I asked if they were using AI, and they had already used it in the interview process. The good news is it wasn't bad, but it was the kind of thing you could run something through and detect. And the only wrong answer would be lying. From my perspective, it's not that you couldn't use it, but let's just talk about it openly. And fortunately, they did, but I don't think that's where everybody would land. So from an MSP owner or CEO perspective, the mindset isn't all my business or all my employees are going away. What about I know we talked about this fear, but from an employee perspective, I think maybe half and half of the MSP owners are excited about it, and others have some fear. Probably not that even, but let's say it's that. But it seems more universal that if you're working somewhere, it seems like nothing but downside.
Yeah.
At least when I talk to people, they say, I'm concerned it's going to take my job, or I have to do 10 times as much, or there's variation, but some version of that. So what is your take on that?
I think it's a real fear that should be addressed, and you should think of what the reality of it is. So, take an MSP for perspective. Doing onboardings quicker is a great use case that people can use right away. Communicating with clients better is a great use case you can use right away. Spending less time doing your project management is a great sort of way to get going. These are things that sort of exist today. And as sort of the technology progresses, you're going to see AI integrated in more things you can do. So is AI going to crush tickets overnight? No. Are we going to reach a stage where your employees, your technicians can move through tickets faster because they have AI assisting them in a co-pilot sort of co-intelligence fashion? Like, yeah, we're already there, right? Is AI going to be able to do your dispatching for you? We're pretty close to there. In some places we are there. Is AI going to be able to handle triaging or high volumes of calls or requests and sort of move them to the right places? Like, yeah, we're pretty much there, right? Level 1. How far away are we from AI being able to handle password resets, basic restart your computer, that sort of stuff? A year, a couple months, 2 years, like, yeah, that's the reality. So, it's not going to take your entire business overnight. But you need to, if you're not in the position where you're ready to adopt as new technology comes out, it's going to hurt you down the line. So, the worst thing you can do if you're scared of AI is run from AI. You have to embrace it.
So if I am an employee doing password resets, or only generating proposals, or something like that that's very specific, that is kind of here today or about here today, what should I do as an employee?
Just skill up, and owners of MSPs should be thinking about that. And how are we going to retain these employees and reallocate them to resources that can better fit them? So every MSP owner looks at AI projects or automation projects or whatever it is, efficiency-driven projects, is we're going to automate this whole thing. But what are you going to do with the employee afterwards? And usually you need that employee on board to automate that whole thing. So how are you going to motivate them for what their next job is? And it may look like MSPs grow 50% bigger with the same amount of people. It may look like MSPs stay the same size with 30% less people. It's your decision as a business owner where you want to go and how you want to handle that. And if your staff gets the inkling that you're in that latter category, they may not be very motivated to help you on that goal, and you may have a case of pursuing mediocrity or sort of like avoiding innovation. And I think it's important to invest in employees, and I think that there's a real opportunity right now for MSPs to adopt these newer technologies and continue to grow and grow their business. And MSP business is a growing market, and retain the people and hopefully pay them more. But if your employee figures out how to automate their job 50% and can do twice as much work, do they get twice as much money? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Could you give them 20% more if they do that? And then your team could see that, this person got a big raise and they got, a new title and all this stuff because they figured out how to automate those things. I think that everyone wins in that scenario.
Obviously, it's a very different level, but I feel like even not counting the Industrial Revolution, we all remember where there was generations of computer upgrades that were twice as fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we got twice as much work done because we could play more games, but the computer was twice as fast. Or, SaaS software or RMM or something we're already unlocking gains in efficiency and how we do things. standing still seems to be the biggest risk. But on the other hand, I feel like everybody's either, there's some fear, but also some degree of overwhelm. So how do I approach this as an MSP with all the shiny things that are AI and all the buzzwords we could throw out to try to not bury my head in the sand, but to try to prepare, to try to keep up? Like, how do I even start to upskill myself to even figure out where do I go with my team?
Yeah, I mean, I think adoption is the biggest thing, and getting yourself to use it. I think if you're an MSP owner and you haven't had that 10 hours yet, like, you need to start there, because that'll help you get a grip on what's real, and what can be done and what can't be. So that's step one. Step two, I think is to sort of do some ideation on your business and figure out where it could be. So you need that top-down approach and that bottom-up approach. Picking an approved technology is definitely a big part of it. It's part of where I am a lot of the time in the process, as a AI platform that MSPs adopt for the customers as well. And I think that's a big part of it, because you need to give people a place to go and avoid that shadow AI, which we talked about before. But you need to get your house in order too. What are the policy changes that you need to make? What's an acceptable use policy? What does good look like in your organization? And then you need to think about employee motivation, right? If you're trying to adopt this technology, put yourself in the employee's shoes and think, what incentive do they have, if any, to tell you and to work on this sort of adoption stuff besides their boss telling them to?
What do you say to the people that say this is just noise and buzzwords, and because it's so noisy, because there's so many buzzwords, I'm just going to ignore it for a year, 3 years, 5 years, something like that?
I think that there's a big, I will first of all say that there is a lot of noise and there is a lot of buzzwords, and overnight every company became an AI company, right, and slapped AI on whatever they're doing, and that's okay, right? Because AI is integrated in everything that we do. We offer a free training on the fundamentals of AI, just to wrap your head around it. There's certification too. Basically, the goal of the training is so an MSP could come in and leave with a foundational knowledge to have an intelligent conversation with the customer or with their employees about AI. Like, I think that's a great step forward, and you should at least do that. But invest the 10 hours. Do it now, because a risk of being left behind in an industry is huge. I wouldn't want to be the person that held out for, against VoIP or, against high-speed internet or, against whatever new technology. And this one is progressing faster than any of those. By
far, right? By far. Yeah, if you're still holding on cybersecurity, you're already in trouble, right? What are some of the interesting use cases, or I guess, let's start with that. What's some of the interesting use cases, the real world?
Yeah.
Because I think people are even having trouble imagining what I do. I think it's throwing in a Copilot or Bing or ChatGPT, and it spits out some stuff. And if you're listening, my apologies, but you're not very good at prompts. So you're throwing in junk, you're getting out junk.
Yeah.
And so people are like, I can kind of see where it helps me with this email, but they don't know what to. I feel like a lot of folks, they don't I can't really put a price. Maybe I'm willing to pay the monthly fee, but to write better emails or something. But people are having, I think, trouble imagining what can we do now. So what are you seeing in the real world?
Yeah, I think focusing from an MSP's perspective is probably a good place to start. And then in our platform, we have a couple hundred templates and sort of pre-written prompts ready to go, where you just fill in the blanks across all businesses and sectors. I think that there's a lot of use cases that people have already discovered around marketing, like you said, email writing, document summaries, meeting recap, that kind of stuff. And it's sort of, it's cool the first time you see it, but it's okay, is this enough for me to really go forward? What else can it do? And I've seen a lot of MSPs, they'll go through their onboarding procedures of new customers, the entire sales flow, So everything from post-sales meeting notes, generating a proposal, checking a proposal against resources, going through pricing scenarios. I've seen a lot of that being automated through AI templates or automations in our platform from our partners, and they're uploading examples, and they're giving explicit instructions on how to do it, to the point where you just paste in the notes from the meeting or type what the customer wants in plain English. I think that there's a lot of opportunity around in that same onboarding flow. New customer machine, right? You dump some software on it, right, and you get back some list of processes that are running, right? And we have a thing that somebody else made it. One of our partners made it and shared it with the community, thankfully, where it looks at the processes that are running and then looks at an approved list of technologies that the MSP supports, and then pulls out all the processes that are not on the approved list, and then the AI gives its best guess on what that exe file that's running actually is. Like, we found qb.exe running on your computer. It seems like you're running QuickBooks. Do you need a support package on QuickBooks server or whatever? Can we take this off of the machine? You have 3 antiviruses running. We're going to take these other ones off. There's a lot, the highest impact in the lowest amount of time I've seen is RFP and grant proposals, because what's happened is the AI has made the grant proposal process or the RFP response process so short. If you have all of your information ready to go, you can do what would previously take a week, like 2 hours or 20 minutes or something like that. So you see the people who are doing that, there's a huge influx of applications for these RFPs and those grants, and sort of if you're not doing that, it's going to be a lot harder to win these types of things. A lot around standard operating procedures. I think in an MSP, everyone's always trying to clean up their SOPs and to go in and take the first line, the subject of it, this is the procedure steps, all of that, versus just taking a voice note and saying, hey, here's what it is, here's the template for the procedure, give me the first draft of it and I'll edit it. That's an easy win. We have an AI phone agent that can answer the phone, and you can take phone calls and all that. MSPs are using that for after hours a lot of the time. Hey, what's your name? What's the business? Okay, what's wrong? Is this causing business downtime? Okay, it is. I'm transferring you to the on-call employee. It's not. I'm creating a ticket. We'll take care of it for you. Thank you very much for calling. Blah 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 blah. AI is great for that. Would I have it take every call right away? If your employees are used to, your whole value prop is we answer the phone right away and you talk to a human, maybe not. But you can slowly work it in, and we may get there, right? In 2 years or a year or 5 years, I don't know. But it's progressing fast.
Yeah, interesting. What are the biggest hurdles you see as MSPs are adopting? They're coming in, they're like, okay, I have a use case or two and I want to kind of do it, but I'm not quite sure where to start. Maybe they land on your platform, et cetera. But what's the biggest challenges you see?
It's almost always trying to boil the ocean and trying to do too much. Getting fixated on a very complicated use case that's hard to get everyone on board for, instead of going for the low-hanging fruit first.
So get the quick wins.
Get the quick wins.
Okay. Give me an example of overly bloated use case versus a quick win.
I want to have AI look through every past ticket in our PSA and then make suggestions and create documentation on how to solve this, and give the technician the IT glue link and then the link to the past tickets that were similar on day one. It's going to be hard to roll that out right away. The technology's getting there. That'll be easier over time, right? Maybe next year, right? That stuff will be able to do out of the box, but we're not there yet. Versus, I want AI to review my ticket and tell me the status priority if it's high or low, and get the subcategories correct.
save you a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do a ton. Yeah. I think that's hits the nail on the head really well, because I think, it went from it can't, Siri can't get most people's names right.
Yeah.
So we're used to that's the thing, and then ChatGPT all of a sudden can answer seemingly every question. Now, sometimes it answers them with interesting information.
Yep.
But I think, that created this, well, can't it do everything, right? So how do I guard against that? How do I make sure I'm not coming in with a boil the ocean approach?
You get your 10 hours in.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
where do I start with my 10 hours?
Where do you start?
Yeah.
So usually it's getting prompted on one of those low-hanging fruit use cases. Like, hey, listen, look, you're in charge of writing. You've been working on these SOPs, right? Here's a template. Here's an app in Hatz to get started with it. Mess around with it and try to create a couple. And then here's the chat too, and see what else you could do with it. That's a good way to get started. And it doesn't have you can do it in Copilot, whatever, or ChatGPT. Go try it out and see if you can get it to do this, or provide a couple examples of our past webinar, the marketing materials from them to the AI, and ask it to help you with the new one. You're writing a big report or proposal, ask the AI for feedback on it and suggestions for improvement and grammar and spelling and all of that. That's a good way to get started, where someone can sort of go in and then it's what else could I do?
What's your thoughts on? Are we going to? It's already progressed fast. Are we going to expect every week incremental improvements? Or do you think it's just nothing, bang, all of a sudden, we're talking with Jarvis or something?
So the underlying technology has been increasing in innovation faster than everything else. So if the LLM, so that's GPT-4, GPT 3.5, Claude 3.5 Sonnet by Anthropic, those are the LLMs. If they didn't get any better today, it would take another 5 years before our industry caught up to the use cases for actually using them. Yeah, so it would take all the vendors in here, another 5 years for their roadmaps to play out. Okay, this feature can be done like this. The PSA vendors, all that. There's a lot that needs to be done, and it's not we're going to keep seeing incremental improvements on the underlying tech and the LLMs, but in terms of integrating it into your business, there's a lot of work we still need to do on the existing software side to build the technology in. It'd be a new programming language came out that's suddenly way faster than everything else, or and then everybody has to rewrite their code that way, or PS5 came out and you've got all the games for PS4 and you need to remake them for PS5. So we're still catching up, and there's a lot of catching up that has to happen.
What about things like scripts or code and coding?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been some pretty big improvements in what AI can build. So as an MSP, is that something that I can use today?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, AI is very good at writing PowerShell scripts or looking at code. It will not be 100% correct. And if you don't know what you're doing, blindly committing PowerShell scripts and running them is not a good thing to do. Some examples of how you can improve that is you have an existing script that you need to change to go another way, and you feed it, you say, hey, listen, I have this PowerShell script for offboarding a user. It currently deactivates their Microsoft account, and then, whatever, uninstalls this and does that. I also want it to remove the license in Microsoft. I don't even know if that's possible, but I also want it to do this. Can you edit it and explain why those changes are made? You're going to get a lot better off than write me a script that does, X, Y, and Z from scratch.
I can tell you speak prompt language the way you're being very specific there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the normal one would be I want a script that does onboarding. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Onboarding what? Converting to what service, what users, where, which, yeah. And I find that it's interesting because, we grasp that context as humans, and we have to, that's learning its own language, right? Prompt engineering. Is that something that you think the average MSP needs to spend more time on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have prompt engineering certifications. They're free for any MSP if you want to check them out, but it's important to do it yourself to learn how to get better. And I wouldn't just go do prompt engineering courses. I would try it first, because then you're like, oh, wait, I was doing it this way and this response was so much better because I learned how to do it this way. And concepts like chain of thought prompting that can perform better, where you sort of ask the AI first, break it into the steps that you think this should happen, and then perform those steps. You can get better results than just saying do this. So yeah, I think it's important. I think it's going to be increasingly important because everyone sort of doesn't know what they're doing, and when small businesses and medium-sized businesses need help with a new technology, they turn to their MSPs. So I think offering that service, whether or not your clients instinctively turn to you or not, is important and could be a big moneymaker for people. And also just knowing it to adopt internally.
What if I'm more bullish on it, or I'm already doing these things, like how after the 10 hours, like what if I want to be the leader, one of the leaders in the MSP space, what do I do?
Work on adoption in your own organization first. I found that the MSPs successful selling AI to their end customers have adopted it internally the most. There's a direct correlation between sales to end customers and internal adoption. So to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to identify the leaders in your organization. You're going to identify use cases that are the low-hanging fruit, maybe 5 to 10 that everyone can get started with easily, and maybe half of them everyone can use, and some of them only half the people can use. And you're going to pick an approved technology, and you're going to roll it out to everyone. And you're going to say, "This, we have this. You can use it. Here's how we suggest getting started." And then, in addition to that, as you move through the course of maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, you move to the next phase, which is what are the sort of templated or niche use cases that maybe work for one department but not everyone else. Let's build those out. In addition to all of this stuff, you need to get your house in order. You need to get your policy straight, your acceptable use, your terms and conditions as an MSP, all of that stuff done. So you move on to the templated, and then finally, once that sort of phase and you have a good handle on it, that's when you can work on those more ambitious projects or automating an entire area of business just for one specific person and focusing on them. But I think if you try to jump to the end, you're gonna fail, or maybe you won't fail, but it'll be a lot harder than if you bring the whole org along.
What about getting your data ready?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. I think a lot of people, a lot of MSPs are sensitive to AI data readiness because of AI in the Microsoft ecosystem. So you look at Copilot, it's AI that's integrated into Office 365, and it uses the Microsoft Craft API to query files that it can have access to on SharePoint. So if you are an employee and you might have access to some shared drive, but you've never accessed it before, yes, you need to fix that as an MSP, but if all of a sudden the AI can answer questions about it, might accidentally pull information from those files that an employee didn't know existed, that's a huge problem. So I think from data ready...
Last thing we want is we roll out AI and then people are like, hey, what's Bob's salary?
Yes.
Now all of a sudden you get an answer.
Yeah.
Right? That you didn't set the permissions well. Now you've given away the whole comp data for the whole company.
Yeah, and you can turn a lot of that stuff off. And I would suggest when getting started, in our platform, we follow a least privilege AI model where you sort of know what's going into it and you know who you're sharing it with, which I think is important and sort of the way a lot of people want to operate. I think that there's a misconception that more data is better for AI, because in many cases it is, right? When training a large language model or something like that. But garbage in, garbage out, right? How many copies of the same PowerPoint presentation do you have where the first 6 copies are like the drafts, right? Like you don't need all of that, and the AI doesn't need access to your 6 drafts, right? So being more, I think if you're gonna roll out Copilot with the sort of Graph API enabled and SharePoint and all that stuff enabled, you need to do a lot of work on data readiness, and it's important to do that. And I think MSPs are great to do that. I think it's good work. Just build a project hour for it so you're not getting crushed. But
What role do you think MSP should play in helping the owner or the employees of the company train, put in policies, maybe deal with fear?
yeah,
That's one of the things that they're probably dealing with right now. So because we talked about the MSP owner and maybe their employees worried, but obviously your customers, that team and your the CEO of that company, if that's who you're working with, they all have their own fears.
I mean, I bet my future on MSPs being able to do this, right? Like I started a company with that thesis that MSPs would be the most well-suited group of people to serve small and medium businesses for this emerging need. And I think that you can do it. I think that it's the natural progression of things. And, I wouldn't want to be running an MSP business where no one of my customers have adopted AI in 3 years, because it's a huge threat, right? And if we're in agreement, or at least in semi suspicion that AI will have disruption in industries, it's the companies who are going to adopt them 3-4 years down the line that are going to be the ones that have benefited from it, instead of the ones that were disrupted by it.
So how would you start that with your customer, right? I mean, do you start having conversations about fear or policy, or because at a certain point then you're talking about maybe we can help you build something, but it seems like there's things before that, because it seems like if you have this concern and fear, imagine when you have significantly less knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I think like maybe it's time to turn your 10th cybersecurity webinar into the topic of AI and address this stuff and become a thought leader in it to your customers. A lot of the MSPs I work with are having a lot of success prospecting new customers and marketing themselves by being a thought leader in AI inside their community, the same way that they did with cyber, right? And the same way they did with IT and different IT trends that have happened over the past 20, 30 years as this MSP business model has emerged, right? So I think that's a big step forward. I think the other is just being ready. Like, we can give you a quick assessment, we can give you approved tools, and we can help you with your AI policies, or at least tell you what you need and what you need to look for. That's like a great sort of first go-to-market for MSPs. I think hey, maybe we'll turn AI on for a couple users in every company or whatever company. Like, I think you're going to be chasing yourself, and it's going to be the side thing that never happens. If you get methodical about it, this is our AI offering, this is how we go to market, you'll have a lot more success, and you can address those fears and sort of guide business leaders along the way. But you need that sort of talk track with them.
Interesting. So let's say I buy in, this is going to be a big change, I put in the 10 hours. How much of my time or of my staff should I say, let's allocate some time? Because it's obviously fairly early.
Yep.
And it's a very shiny object. In MSPs, we love shiny objects.
Yeah.
So how much time should I be devoting on this versus all the other competing priorities? If I have 10 people, should I put one person on it full time? I mean, just from an allocation perspective, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's something that happens naturally as you do other work too. So if you're working on a PSA migration or something like that, having AI support you along the way is going to help you do that faster and better. Right? You're feeding the documents in from one to another. You're looking at error logs, why it's not working. You're asking how you should set up, the field mapping. Here are my fields in this system. Here are my options in this one. How should they match up, and why? I don't think it's like, okay, we're gonna set aside 3 hours away today to work on AI and like go back and forth with it. I think it's more like start using it in other projects and how you do things. Think of it like almost like Google search. Like you wouldn't tell someone, okay, go spend 2 hours learning Google search, right? Like you're gonna use it to as a tool and start putting it in your toolbox. And
Well, on that note, it's been a little while, right? But since Google was a new thing, but when that was new, or when certain versions of Windows were new, or whatever it is, there were the techs that couldn't help themselves. They spent their nights and weekends, right?
Yeah.
So do I need to be looking for that person since this is such a new paradigm and new technology?
I think that they exist and that they're important for adoption, but I think we over-index on that person and leave the rest of the people in companies behind, and it causes AI adoption to fail because you have that person go from level 1 to level 10 while everyone else is still at level 0.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Don't invest only in your star employee.
That's like how it happens though. Like people teach themselves AI from using it and learning it, and then it's like, okay, now I've done this for a while. Let me actually take this prompt engineering thing and learn a little bit about it just to level up how I'm doing it. So like employees will naturally their skill set and knowledge on interacting with AI will happen over time. I don't think it's something that you can really push down from the top.
What's one thing you're looking forward to?
I'll answer two ways then. I think for AI in general, I'm really excited about the advancements in medicine that are sort of happening very quickly behind the scenes. New drugs are getting invented, novel drugs to treat specific people and specific things, automated testing of things. I think it's going to be really great and really positive for humanity. I also, I know there's going to be a lot of pain to get there, but autonomous vehicles, I think there's a lot of vehicle car crashes, and there's a lot of people who, especially in the U.S., can't drive, and they sort of get, their quality of life goes way down. I think that those are two really positive things that AI can help. And then, in my own product, we're working a lot to integrate external systems into our platform right now, and being able to run AI in workflows and being able to have it sort of do chains of prompts and chains of commands. And it's a big change for us, but something that we've always anticipated and always wanted to do, and something that I'm very excited about.
When do you think the next big jump or leap might be? Obviously, it hasn't occurred, so I'm setting you up for failure here, but what's your wildest guess?
I think this year was the year of experimentation, and next year is the year of implementation for AI. I think we're going to see mass adoption in maybe maybe it's the top 20, maybe it's the top 50, I don't know, percent of clients, software, and services. But I think it's going to come on pretty strong because there is just so much happening, and it's real innovation. And there's the top 1%, right, in terms of technology and adoption are all doing this stuff. And everyone else, if you look at the Fortune 500, they're all running AI pilots with 10 different companies trying to figure out how they're going to integrate it in their own business and their own software. And sort of next year is the time to make the real decisions for a lot of these companies.
Any, on the other end of the spectrum, any bets when we're going to see AGI?
Well, so it depends. So first of all, as anytime anyone's asked this, they always say, well, what's the definition of AGI? A common definition is AI that is smarter than humans, in generally speaking, 99% of times, right? So super intelligence is smarter than the smartest human. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is smarter than most humans pretty much all the time. I think we already have elements of it, there's things that AI can do better and faster than humans already. But I don't know. I really don't know. I think it could be a couple years. I don't think AGI is I think we still have a lot more years of using and building software, and there's always the people element of it. So, I think it's this thing that nobody really knows what it is, and we're scared of when it's coming.
Interesting. So
I wouldn't bet against the model developers from innovating faster, though, because they seem to keep doing that.
Yes, they seem to have a lot at stake.
Yeah, and there's billions of dollars being poured in.
You mentioned chain of thought prompting and other prompting techniques. Is it prompting techniques? Is it the rise of agents? Like, what's the trend now, or what's the thing to be looking at? The kind of like it's the new cool thing, new interesting capability. Or assistance.
Yeah, I think like a year ago, AI was really good at responding in just text and sort of not in computer language, like a JSON format or like something that a system could parse and sort of take instructions from. Now it's a lot better at that. So we're seeing this next wave of like AI being able to make decisions and send API requests and do that. So I think that's the next wave of things. You can call it agents, you can call it workflows, but that's definitely like where a lot of time in software is being developed right now, and where we're going to see the biggest changes soon.
Awesome. Jimmy, let everybody know how to find you or Hatz AI.
Yeah, our website's hatz.ai, Hatz.ai, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Jimmy Hatzell, Hatzell, 2 L's in Hatzell. Reach out to me. Love to connect.
Well, thanks for making time to speak at Build IT Live. I know packed schedule presenting, so I appreciate it, and thank you for being on MSP Mindset.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.